Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to see class 10 science chapter 7, how do organisms reproduce? And today we are going to see the introduction part. So today we are going to learn why organisms reproduce and why reproduction begins with the copying of DNA, and also how DNA copying produces two similar but not identical daughter cells. And we are going to define variation and explain how it arises, and also explain why variations are useful at the population level, and connect reproduction with the stability of the species, and how variation prepares species for the niche level environmental change. So let's start with the topic today. First, we have to learn what is reproduction. So what is reproduction, children? See, reproduction is the biological process by which living organisms produce new individuals of their own kind. So what it does? It produces new individuals of their own kind. Why? In order to ensure the continuation of life on Earth from one generation to the next. So every living organism, we can say whether it is a bacteria, plant, animal, or a human being, it reproduces to maintain its species, right? So we can give some examples like a mango tree. It produces new mango plants through seeds, and also bacteria, they reproduce by dividing into two cells. And what is the importance of this reproduction, children? Why reproduction is important? Reproduction maintains continuity of the species. If the continuity of the species is not there, what will happen? That organism will become extinct. So it prevents extinction of organisms. And also what it does, it transfers the heredity from information from the parents to the offsprings. And also what it does, it produces variations that helps the organisms in order to survive the changing environments, right? So environmental changes is happening, global warming, yeah, so many things is happening, right? So it is giving us some variations also in order to survive. So let's start. Why do organisms reproduce? See, reproduction is not essential for individual survival, right? An individual organism can survive without reproduction also. For example, we can say a person can live a healthy life even if they never have children, right? And also a dog can survive without producing puppies also. But however, if no organisms are reproducing, what will happen? The species will eventually disappear from the earth. So we have some essential life processes. What are these essential life processes? See, these processes are very necessary for the survival of an individual. What are those? Those are nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. So without these processes, an organism dies, right? So why to spend energy on reproduction? See, reproduction requires a lot of energy because the organism must produce its reproductive cells, right? And then build new body structures, and also they have to care for offsprings. That we know it happens in many animals also. So despite this energy cost, reproduction is important because it ensures the survival of the species. So we can like one example for you, like imagine only one tiger exists and it cannot reproduce. So when it dies, what happens? Tigers would become extinct, right? So therefore, reproduction is essential for the continuity of species. Body design and the blueprint DNA. What is this DNA? We know the abbreviation for DNA. DNA is nothing but deoxyribonucleic acid. What is it? It is a hereditary material present in chromosomes inside the nucleus of cells that we have already studied in our lower classes, right? So what does DNA contains, children? So DNA contains instructions for growth, development, body structure, and functioning of organisms. So we can say like DNA as a blueprint. So just as a building is constructed, yeah, we know now construction, building construction. Just as a building is constructed using an architectural blueprint, yeah. So if the architectural blueprint is there, we can construct any building, right? And an organism develops according to the instructions stored in the DNA. That is why the DNA is a blueprint. So why do organisms of the same species look similar? Because same species, they have same have similar DNA, right? And also we can give some examples like humans resemble human beings, or mango trees resemble other mango trees. These are some examples. So this similarity occurs because DNA information is passed from the parents to the offsprings. And last one is the DNA and proteins. So DNA controls the formation of the proteins. So proteins are what they determine. They determine the body shape, eye color, hair type, height, and other characteristics. So what is the main idea of this, children? So reproduction begins with the making a copy of DNA. So without DNA copying, new organisms cannot be reproduced. DNA copying and cell division. How does reproduction begin? See, the first step in reproduction is DNA replication. Replication is nothing but copying. So, step 1. So, DNA is copied. So, what happens there? The cell makes an exact copy of its DNA using some chemical reactions. And in step 2, what happens? Two DNA copies are formed. Okay, so the cell now contains original DNA as well as the newly copied DNA. And in the third step, what happens? Additional cellular apparatus is formed. See, the cell produces cytoplasm, cell membrane, and other organelles. So these structures are necessary for the new cell to survive. Cell division. What is cell division? See, the parent cell divides into two daughter cells. So now each daughter cell receives one DNA copy, right? And also it has necessary cellular machinery. And why can't this DNA exist alone, children? Can it exist alone? No. Why? Because, see, DNA needs a complete cell in order to obtain nutrients, produce proteins, and also to carry out the life processes. Therefore, DNA copying is always accompanied by cell division. We can say, for example, like a bacteria reproduce through binary fission that we have already studied in our lower class. So there what happens? So DNA copies itself first. Then the cell enlarges, right? Then what happens? Cell divides into two bacteria, right? Are the daughter cells identical? Daughter cells are similar but not exactly identical. So what is happening here? DNA copying is highly accurate but it is not perfect. Small mistakes may occur during DNA replication, right? So these mistakes create the difference. We call that difference as variation. And why do variations occur? See, no biochemical reaction is 100% perfect. Tiny errors may occur while copying DNA also. We have types of variations also. One is a harmful variation. So what happens in harmful variation? See, some changes may be severe and they prevent the organism from surviving. For example, we can say like a defective DNA, so causing the cell death, right? And mild variation. So most variations are small and they are harmless also. Example, we can say like a difference in the height, difference in the skin color, and also differences in the eye color. So end result what happens? So new organisms resemble their parents but are not completely identical. They just resemble. They are not completely identical. So what is the importance we can see here? These small variation, they form the basis of evolution. The importance of variation. What is a niche, children? A niche is the specific role or position of an organism in its environment. So what and all it includes? It includes its habitat, food source, its behavior, and also how these organisms are interacting with other organisms. So what happens here? When the environment remains stable, yeah, if conditions remain unchanged, what happens there? Organisms survive comfortably, right? And similar body designs are advantageous and also population remains stable. So in such situations, what happens? Variation may appear unnecessary. But when the environment changes, what happens? Environmental changes may include like temperature increase, yeah, We know global warming, right? And drought, floods, disease outbreaks, and natural disasters. So, under such conditions, variation becomes extremely important, right? Why is variation important? Because some individuals may possess characteristics that help them survive new conditions. So, these survivors reproduce and save the species from extinction. So I have given you some key point also here. So variations helps the survival of the species rather than the survival of every individual. So here I have given some NCERT example, bacteria under heat resistance. So what is happening here in the step 1 under the normal conditions? See, a population of bacteria lives in water with moderate temperature. Here what happens, see, most bacteria are adapted to these conditions, right? And some bacteria naturally possess heat resistant variations also. So in the step 2 what happens, temperature increases. So due to the global warming, what happens, the water temperature rises. So most bacteria cannot tolerate the increased heat, so what, they will die, right? And in the step 3 what happens, heat resistant bacteria survive. So the few bacteria with heat resistant traits, they survive. They continue reproducing. Gradually what happens? The population increases again. So what does this example show, children? See, variation acts like a safety mechanism. Do we accept? Yes. Even if most organisms die, a few individuals with useful variations can survive and preserve the species. So, exam tip I have given, variation is beneficial for the survival of species in changing environment. So, it is directly from NCERT and is a frequently asked 2 or 3 mark question. So here I have given you some memory tips, easy ways to remember. So DNA, we know already DNA abbreviation is deoxyribonucleic acid. Here it is like a design necessary archive. So DNA is the body's blueprint, right? So same DNA, same proteins, same body design. So copy the blueprint, copy the body, the same. CAS, it is copy, apparatus and split. So these are the 3 steps of reproduction at the cell level. Here first what happens is C, DNA is copied. A, it is building the cellular apparatus, and then S, it is splitting into 2 cells. And variation is like an insurance policy. So variations is the species insurance against future disasters. So the individual may not need it, but the species cannot survive change without it. Bacteria in warm water story. So log this example in children, like warming water, most bacteria die. Only heat resistant variants only survive. So species are saved here. So it is the textbook thing. So here some frequently asked board exam questions I have given you along with the marks and also in which year it has up. Yeah, I have already given you for the previous lessons. So I'll try to give you for these lessons also separately all this board exams questions, children. Let's see answer for this one. So what is the importance of DNA copying in reproduction? So DNA copying transfers heredity information from parents to offsprings and also it maintains continuity of the species. Why is variation beneficial to the species but not necessarily for the individual? Because this variation helps some individuals survive environmental changes and also ensuring the survival of the species. How does reproduction help in providing stability to population or species? Because continuous reproduction replaces dying individuals and also it maintains population size. Why is reproduction said to be not essential to the survival of an individual organism? Yes, of course, and see, an organism can live without reproduction also, but reproduction is necessary for species continuity. And then next one, how can variations lead to evolution? Yes, this evolution, fifth question. See, useful variations accumulate over generations, so it leading to evolutionary changes. Reproduction is essential for the continuity of the species. Yes, of course, it's essential for the continuity of the species. Otherwise, the species will become extinct. What would happen if DNA copying were 100% accurate? If it is 100% accurate, identical species will be produced, right? So we have come to the conclusion part of this topic. So what we saw today, we saw about the reproduction. Reproduction is nothing but producing new individuals and also ensures the continuity of species. And DNA, it acts as a blueprint of life and also it must be copied during the reproduction. And what is the cell division? What happens there? DNA copying is followed by cell division and the variation. See, this variation arises due to small errors during DNA copying, evolution. So, variations are the raw materials for this evolution. Survival of the species, how it occurs, stable DNA copying maintains the population and also variations help species survive environmental changes. And also given you some NCERT examples regarding that heat resistant bacteria survive when temperature rises and showing us the importance of variation. So we have come to the conclusion part, children. That's all for today. Yes, watch the video, subscribe it. Yeah, we'll see you in the next part. Thank you.